Okay, to replace the high-speed gearbox, there are a couple of things that you will need that do not come in the kit. One is a 2mm hex wrench, and we also need a 1.5mm hex, or a 1/16 can be used as a replacement for the 1.5. If you look on the left side of the gearbox, with the A side pointed up, there is a divot here, where if you follow it back with your 2mm hex, there's a hole with an M4 set screw inside. What you do is you just need to twist that a little bit to break that set screw loose, and then the gearbox should just slide off. We also need to replace the bevel gear here as part of this process. If you look on that same side where the set screw was for the gearbox, there is a hole in the shaft. What we need to do is stick our 1.5mm hex in there and turn the bevel gear until we find a set screw that is holding the bevel gear on. There it is. Once we find that set screw, we need to loosen it. Now, in order to pull the bevel gear out, we have to take this set screw all the way out. The bevel gear should then slide right out. Now, if we look at the bevel gear, we can see the hole there in the bevel gear, which will be important as we go to replace it. This hole here is tapped, and where the set screw that I just took out goes in. On this shaft, if you rotate it, you can see that there is a divot in the shaft, even with where the set screw hole is on the bevel gear when it slid all the way in. You have to line the divot up on this center shaft with the hole in the bevel gear, and then also with this hole on the outside shaft, so that you can slide the bevel gear in, you tighten the set screw until it inserts the divot on the smaller shaft through the larger hole that we just used. So now that the divot on the smaller shaft and the bevel gear are lined up with the hole on the outside here, so all three of them line up right here, just gently press the new bevel gear into place. We then take our M3 set screw here, go through that same hole, and we tighten it all the way down so it enters that divot. You'll know that that set screw is tightened far enough if you can spin this bevel gear freely. If it's not tightened down tight enough, the set screw will still be poking out into the hole in the outer shaft, and you won't be able to turn the bevel gear anymore. To reinstall the gearbox, if we look on the back of the gearbox here, there's a keyed slot here, and there's also a dowel pin that pokes out of the top of this shaft. So we're going to take the gearbox, and we just slide it on over that, and you want to make sure that that divot is going to be close to the dowel pin. It takes a little bit of jiggling to get it started. Once it gets going, it's usually pretty easy, and you slide it all the way back. You then take your spacer plate, and this is the spot that this is the part of the spacer plate here that we want to be using to space the gearbox. We slide the plate in with it facing backwards until this lip catches the top of the main housing. So sometimes we gotta back the gearbox off just a little bit. so we can drop that spacer plate in. Let me take the gearbox all the way off again, so you can see what I'm talking about. That's going to sit in there like that, with it sitting on top of that housing. Just like that. So, to get back to where we were, I want to get the gearbox started. Drop the plate into place, and then push it until the gearbox is tight on that plate. You need to be careful to make sure that the top section of your spacer up here does not drop down behind the gearbox, because your spacing will be too far off. You then use your M2 to go into that same set screw that was on the side that we used to take it off, and while holding it tight back, tighten that set screw. Then remove our spacing plate, and there we go.